Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Flex. This is Joe Howie, joined today by Peter DiBiase. Unfortunately, Matt St. Jean is unavailable tonight, so Peter, a former friend of the show, former fellow commentator for WDOM Sports at PC, has back on. Peter, how you doing?
I'm doing good tonight, Joe. Appreciate you having me on. I've been on a couple times before. It's always a blast talking some Friar basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming back on. Before we get into this, have a quick ad read for everybody. This season, we've teamed up with SeatGeek to get you the best deals for tickets to your favorite teams. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets, and they're here to give you some great deals. Get in on the fun and head over to SeatGeek, download their app, and use the code NCAA Hoops Digest for $20 off your first purchase. I know I actually just used SeatGeek to get tickets to the PC at St. John's game at Madison Square Garden. Looking forward to that one. Another ad read for you guys. This podcast is presented by House Enterprise and in part with House of College Hoops. Head over to our site, house-enterprise.com, for more info. As you can see, Peter, I am currently wearing my Flex branded vest today. Got this at the House Enterprise site. If anybody's looking for some Flex merch, head on over, house-enterprise.com. Show the Flex some love, wear it to the amp. You know what to do. So obviously, Peter, we're coming into this one. The Friars are 3-0 in their past three games, having defeated DePaul at home, Butler at home, and most recently Villanova on the road. We haven't had an episode of the Flex since then. So, Peter, want to get your thoughts on this past 3-game winning streak by the Friars?
Well, I thought it was a much needed 3-game winning streak. They came off that 2-game skid against Marquette and against Creighton, and obviously both games on the road. And we know beating ranked teams on the road in the Big East is virtually or almost impossible. So you
Yeah.
can, I guess, you can cut the team some slack, and obviously Jared Bynum wasn't playing, so you can cut them even a little bit more slack. But the DePaul win that I was on call for, as well with the Butler win, much needed wins against two teams that are obviously not on the same par as the Friars, and you're at home. So those are two games you kind of had to have, and there was no excuses. Going into Sunday at Villanova, there's a little bit more of 50-50 in my opinion, because you're playing at Wells Fargo. It was basically a sold-out Wells Fargo Center. Nova, obviously, they're 10-10, not having their best year to date, obviously coming off that Final Four run, but they're still super talented. They still have a couple starters coming back from that team, and they had Justin Moore, who made his debut, who did play in 31 minutes, which I didn't expect him to play that many minutes, but he did play 31 minutes. So I thought that Villanova looked a lot better, mainly on the defensive end, and they've still been a very good defensive team this year. They've struggled offensively, but the Friars' ability to make shots, especially key shots, and credit to Jared Bynum, who came off the bench with that spark and kind of poses the question, maybe he should stay off the bench and keep coming off the bench, because he seems like a total different player when he's coming off the bench. But I also thought in the second half, the Friars defense for about 5 to 7 minutes were really suffocating, and that kind of got them the lead back, and they never let the lead go. So at the Wells Fargo, I know it's not Nova of the past or Nova of last year, but it's a needed win because you kind of steal one on the road in the Big East, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the way you put that. You steal one on the road. You're right. This isn't a Villanova team that we've seen from years past, but it's still a road game nonetheless. And Ed Cooley always likes to say that when you play on the road in the Big East, you enter the building down 7-10. I think going and playing at Wells Fargo Center on the same day that the Philadelphia Eagles are playing in the conference championship. You go in there down 20. Really, you've got a rowdy crowd. They're excited to watch their birds play. Justin Moore's back in the building. All signs were pointing towards Villanova. And that's really how it felt, out of the jump there, is that Villanova came out hot. They scored on the 5 of their first 7 possessions, I think that stat is. And, although he wasn't necessarily stuffing the stat sheet, I thought Justin Moore's presence was certainly felt. I think most importantly, he freed up guys like Cam Whitmore to really have, a career scoring day. Whitmore was fantastic. He's a really talented player, and this is actually the first time that I watched him for a full 40 minutes. I've tuned in to bits and pieces here and there, but this is the first time I've actually watched him. He's really good. He's got a lot of raw talent, and having Justin Moore on the floor takes some of that defensive attention away from him. Fortunately for on the Friars end, though, we also had Jared Bynum back, and unlike Justin Moore, Jared Bynum was a microwave off the bench. Obviously, 17 of his 19 points came in the second half. Peter, wanted to get your thoughts on this. Jared Bynum, from 3-point land, from scoring, from dishing the ball out. What do you think was the most important factor that he brought to the table in the second half?
I think it's easy to say the 3-point shooting. You go 3 for 4. That's 9 points right there on 4 shots. So I think that's an easy answer, and most people would go with it. I think the passing. I think it's the 5 assists, and it's not even an assist for me. It's the true point guard nature that Jared Bynum does or gives the Friars. Look, you have Allen Breed, who I think from time to time has been a very underrated player this year for the Friars, but I think most people would say he's not a true point guard. Devin Carter has been really good this year. He is not a true point guard. Neither is Noah Locke. We all know that. And then Jaden Pierre he can give you that spurts. I think there was against Butler that he had like 4 assists and like 5 possessions or whatever the number was. But he also comes in a little sugar high, and he just comes in running around, and he's a little crazy. And he's a freshman, and you can get that. And then Corey Floyd's not a point guard. So you honestly, for this season, you have, in my opinion, one true ball handler, one true pass first point guard, and that is Jared Bynum. I just think he sets the table for the offensive sets for the Friars so much better than anyone else does. And it's like you can say it's 3-point shooting, and he was great, but his 5 assists, I think you saw the flow of the offense kind of pick up a little time to time. The Friars kind of gets stalled out on offense, and they're lucky they got Bryce Hopkins, who can make a shot. He can go get a bucket whenever he wants. It's like when Bryce Cotton was here or Chris Dunn, where the offense stalls out. Okay, Chris Dunn, who's an NBA player, can go get a bucket. Bryce Hopkins, who's eventually going to be an NBA player, can go get a bucket. And Devin Carter has done that from time to time. So I think having Jared Bynum, a guy that can also score the ball, but his most important part of his game for the Friars is his ability to set the table and get the offense in rhythm.
Yeah, all really great points there. I really like the point you made about late shot clock playmaking. Whether it's him or whether he's finding a teammate, I think Jared Bynum does what we saw Kyron Cartwright do a lot is
Yeah.
if, you're sub 10, sub 15 seconds on the shot clock, for whatever reason the play fell through, Jared Bynum's not afraid to tuck the ball like a running back and take it to the rack. And I think that is really important. Obviously, we saw that dagger, that turnaround jumper on what's his name that sent Cam Whitmore flying. It was very Lawan Pipkins-esque, Woo Pipkins, but no, you're right. Jared Bynum has the ability to take the ball in his hands and make something happen late in the shot clock, which is something I think that the Friars severely missed in his absence. And all the credit in the world goes to Allen Breed and Jaden Pierre, who really juggled the point guard responsibilities while Bynum was out. But like you said, Pierre's a freshman and Allen Breed is a combo guard at heart. So you really, it's a heavy pressure to put on those two guys, especially when Jared Bynum has been so ingrained in this offense for the past 3-4 seasons now. So definitely props to those two, but certainly happy to have Jared Bynum back.
No, 100%. Yeah. And I don't know what minutes are coming into Xavier on Wednesday. Look, he played 24 minutes. Do they keep him off the bench? I'm the advocate for keeping him off the bench.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it doesn't really matter. I clearly said this multiple times when I've been in press conferences this year. It doesn't really matter who starts. I know all the players like who starts. For him, it doesn't matter. It matters who finishes, which in theory, he's obviously 100% correct there. So I think Jared Bynum might want to come off the bench. Well, 3 minutes into the game, the offense is stalling out. Go get Jared Bynum in the game. He's still coming off the bench. It might be a little earlier, and that might be his thing. Maybe he likes coming off the bench. We saw last year the reason he was picked to be first team All Big East at the point guard position is because he was so good, but he was coming off the bench. We saw his struggle, and it was mainly his ability to not make shots in this first half of the season, mainly non-con play. And he was starting, and he was playing a lot of minutes, and he was kind of taking that added role of playing that true point guard. I think he's done a great job of playing that true point guard, but obviously the shots need to fall. So maybe you keep him off the bench. Do they not? I don't know. But I think the ability getting Jared Bynum back, and he got knocked around a lot this year by fans. And look, he makes shots. It's going to happen. But I think Jared Bynum coming back is this lift that maybe that second half, like kind of gear that the team needs to hit, even though they weren't sputtering. 2 losses in a row, not the end of the world against really good teams, but he kind of maybe hit a stalemate in the middle of in the season. It's a long season for these kids, so maybe Jared Bynum kind of gives you that energy you need to get down the stretch.
Yeah, I agree. I would say I don't think losing back-to-back games at Creighton at Marquette is much to obsess over either. Creighton's obviously surging. Marquette has the argument for the best team in the league right now. But, it's the way you continue and build momentum going forward, which I absolutely agree with. Speaking of going forward, tomorrow night there is a huge matchup for the Friars a road trip to Cincinnati to take on the Xavier Musketeers, who, as of today, will be missing Zach Freemantle for the next 4 weeks with a foot injury. This is major news. Freemantle is second on the team in scoring with 16, first on the team in scoring with 8 rebounds per game. Very similar numbers to Bryce Hopkins. He is, he's putting together one of the best cases for Big East Most Improved this season and or Big East Bounce Back Player of the Year. Peter, what are your thoughts on this? Does this change tomorrow's matchup for Providence at all?
Oh, I think it 1,000% changes tomorrow's matchup. I wrote a blurb for this website, BigEastBlog.com, and I wrote a blurb about previewing the game, and I gave my prediction, and I actually picked Xavier to win, and I talked about how Freeman. This came out this morning, so thanks Fremantle for not announcing the news, or Xavier for not announcing the news earlier. But yeah, Fremantle would go up against arguably either Ed Crosswell and Clifton Moore, and how Cooley would kind of game plan that against him. And you also have obviously Jack Nungy, who's another big man. So it kind of rips away their ability in their front court. Their two-man game with Nungy and Fremantle. Fremantle 15 points a game, 8 rebounds. Nungy 14, 7.8 rebounds. But like you said, he's a tremendous player. It kind of guts them. I don't know. This is tough news. I don't know how Xavier players will handle it because, well, could they have known this for the last couple of days? Probably. But you find out today that your, I guess, second best player, maybe their most important player, isn't playing, and one of the 5 guys that are in double figures on the season. You have to kind of reshape how you play. And if you're the Friars, this helps you because they're kind of left with just Jack Nungy as their lone big man. They're really good at the guard position with Boom, with Jones, and Kunkel, and they're still going to be playing tomorrow. So that's going to be a factor, obviously.
Yep.
But after that, the big men don't really do anything for me. You have Hunter, who's only averaging 14 minutes a game at 6 points. So you kind of got their front court player. I think Xavier is going to have to kind of game plan a little different offensively. I don't think it changes the Friars' game plan as much. They're still going to roll out their same normal lineup. I think it's just going to make it obviously a little easier for the Friars tomorrow.
I certainly agree. I am not reading too much into the Fremantle absence, as I think a lot of Twitter and the media are. Obviously, I'm not gonna undervalue it. It's a huge blow for Xavier, especially offensively. But on the Friar side of things, I mean that this really doesn't change much for us on the defensive end with respect to the backcourt. Sule Boom is still playing. Xavier has 5 guys right now that are scoring in double figures. So Fremantle is obviously second on the team in doing that. But when when you lose him, there are other guys that can fill his role. So yes, losing him hurts. No, it's not their only scoring option. I think if you look at the Friar side of things and it was Bryce Hopkins that was out, okay, now it's a different story. You're going to
Yeah.
have to ask guys like Ed Croswell, like Devin Carter, who are scoring in double figures, but not at the clip that Hopkins is doing it. So I do think it changes things. I think Hopkins is going to have some ease at the 4 spot because that's where Xavier likes to play Fremantle. But with respect to the backcourt, I think Bynum, Breed, and Carter are going to have their hands full with, Sule Boom, Adam Kunkel, Kobe Jones on the wing. I think Xavier still has other pieces that can make this go. I think another storyline to look at here is, Xavier has been kind of on a skid lately. Lost to DePaul, got doors beat off him by Creighton. And Peter, I have a fun fact for you right now. I'm taking on the Matt St. Jean role with the fun facts. Xavier has not lost back-to-back games since November. Do you know who the 2 teams they lost back-to-back games were?
Oh, not gonna. Are they big teams? Or are they?
Duke and Gonzaga.
That's big teams. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna do it for you.
And since then, Xavier's gone on a tremendous run, talked themselves into the national conversation, into the conversation for Big East, regular season
Yeah.
champions. And then this happens. They just lost to Creighton. I was expecting Xavier to come into this one hungry, looking for a bounce back. What are your thoughts with this now, knowing that and knowing everything about Fremantle? What does this change your perception for what happens tomorrow night?
Um, I would say a little. I still think this is going to be an absolute dogfight for the Friars. I think, like, I agree with you. I think Fremantle, you lose Fremantle, obviously 15 points a game, but you have 3 guards that can all legit score. And they've proven it this year. And you also have Jerome Hunter, who comes off the bench. He's a 6'8" forward. He's averaging 6 points a game, but in 14 minutes. So if you do how many minutes Fremantle plays in 28, that would obviously double his figures. That'd be 12 points a game. So maybe Jerome Hunter can score off the bench, or he might be in the starting lineup tomorrow night for Xavier. I think I picked the Friars to lose tomorrow. I think this is the series or this matchup between these two teams are the teams that are home are going to win the game. I thought it was that kind of split, in my opinion. This does change the how Xavier is going to play, but you're still going to go through those three guards. So if you're Breed, if you're Bynum, if you're Locke, and only one of those guys are really good defenders, you're going to have to obviously guard the perimeter. You have to do your thing, but this could be also motivation for Xavier. Maybe like you said, they've lost a couple in a row. This is I'm not saying it's a get right game because we're not a get right team. Like Butler has been a get right team this year, so we're not at that level where we're like, oh, you play this team, oh, you got it. But look, they did lose to DePaul, but they also beat UConn on the road, and UConn's a little different than we've kind of perceived them maybe a month and a half ago. But they're still uber talented. They're still ranked at the exact moment. They just gone through the Big East, which is a gauntlet, and we've been really fortunate to be 9-2 in Big East play. So maybe this is a Xavier team that's maybe like people kind of like, oh, Friars are going to win. All the maybe the money on the betting side is going towards the Friars. I think we could really see a motivated Xavier team tomorrow.
No, I agree. I titled the episode "Call It Luck" because
Yeah.
as soon as the news dropped,
Mm-hmm.
all the Twitter trolls immediately took to saying that Providence is lucky that we're not facing Zach Fremantle. I think that's a discredit to the rest of that Xavier team.
100%.
But I agree. I still think Xavier can pull it off. They're a really good basketball team, and I always err on the side of desperation when you look at games like this. This is all the more reason for Xavier to come out and bring out all the extra stops to beat Providence, because now you're looking adversity in the face. You're already on a skid. You lose your second best scorer, one of your best players on the team. That's all the more reason for this team and the other guys to come out even more motivated to win. I do think, though, that this poses tremendous implications for the Big East regular season championship race that's been pretty tightly contested between Xavier, Providence, and Marquette. What are your thoughts, going down the stretch here, looking at Xavier's schedule? What do you think about them now, knowing that Fremantle is going to be out for the next 4 weeks?
So you obviously got the Friars tomorrow, and then you got the Johnnies. Never an easy game with the Johnnies. And then you got at Butler. So those two games are probably winnable games if you think it for Xavier. And then you got at Marquette, DePaul, Nova. I'm not going to bore you with the whole schedule, but I still think it's a Marquette's Big East regular season title to lose. I still think, I don't know the exact schedule off the top of my head, but I think they've had the more favorable schedule. So I think it's still Marquette's to lose. But if you're Xavier, you still have to play for the Friars twice. You still got at Seton Hall. You got a Nova team. You got Marquette. So you got some tough games in there. And if Fremantle's going to be out a month, so if he's going, what is today? January 31st. So we'll say he's back for March 1st. We'll play that game. And that would be the last two games against the Friars. And you never know. It could be earlier. It could be later. He would be out against, obviously, the Friars once, at Marquette, Nova, and Seton Hall. And I'm not putting Butler, DePaul, or the Johnnies in there. That's a tough stretch. And no Big East game is easy. You see DePaul's beaten a couple teams. Georgetown finally got their win. So maybe the Big East maybe the bottoms are kind of looking up at this point. But no, I think it's going to be a tough battle for them. They can obviously win some games. You can lose some games. But even with Fremantle, it's still a tough thing. It's playing Providence, playing Nova, Seton Hall, at Marquette. Like, even with Fremantle, like, they would be dogs at Marquette. That spread at Seton Hall would be very close. Like, it's not that cut and dry without Fremantle or with Fremantle. Tomorrow night is going to be very interesting to where we see this Xavier team come Thursday morning. If they beat the Friars, no matter what the score is, obviously if they beat them at 25, that's a little different conversation, but 2 to 5 to 7, it doesn't matter. If they beat the Friars tomorrow night, it also could be see how good this Xavier team is, because then you would beat a ranked team without, you can argue, their best player.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you make some great points there, and you're totally right. Playing any team on any given night in the Big East is the pain in the ass. I'll just say it.
Yeah.
It's certainly not easy, whether you're DePaul, whether you're Xavier. No matter who you're playing, it's tough. I do think from the Friar side of things, this certainly changes the way you look at this stretch of games here. Coming out of that road trip to the Midwest where you lost back-to-back at Creighton, at Marquette, I know Matt and I certainly talked about this. We looked at this 5-game stretch: home against DePaul, home against Butler, at Villanova, at Xavier, home against Georgetown. We looked at this at a potential 4-1 opportunity. I think, this Xavier game has a little bit of a different luster to it now. I know before I said it doesn't change much, but it does change a little. I think there's a different luster to the Xavier game now where the opportunity or the window of opportunity to steal another road win is a little bit larger. I don't think that, you know, it's going to be that much different, but the opportunity, the door is cracked a little bit further. So this could be a 4-1 trip to a 5-1 trip over the course of the 5 games. So I think for the Friars, the Big East regular season title race is still on, and the chances have gone up. How far they've gone up, who's to say? Because this is a Xavier team that could come out really motivated, or they could come out and lay a goose egg at home.
Yeah, 100%. Like after, like I agree with you, that stretch, because then after Xavier, you have Georgetown, which obviously should be a win, but then you got to go at the Johnnies. You host Creighton, which is Valentine's Day, so we got to pink out in Friartown, which is going to be awesome. But then you got Villanova at UConn, you get Georgetown again, and then you end with Xavier at Seton Hall. So like that stretch, like you said, it was probably more of their favorable 5-game stretch towards the end of the year because they got St. John's. That's not a cakewalk. It's a
No,
noon game at St. John's at Carnesecca. Like I think it's at Carnesecca. I don't know where exactly it is. But a noon game.
I think that's at the Garden.
Okay, so noon game at the Garden. You know it's gonna be packed. Maybe St. John's trying to get back into maybe that bubble conversation. You never know. Noon game. It's hard to get up for, and St. John's plays a style of play where it's difficult. They're a super aggressive team. But yeah, I agree. I think tomorrow night, if the Friars can steal victory, it's still stealing a victory in my opinion, even without Fremantle. You can say whatever it is, but if you beat Xavier on the road, it kind of gives you that maybe a little jump over them in that Big East standings. And even if you don't get the 1 seed or win Big East regular season title, the 2 seed looks a lot better than the 3 seed because I don't know the exact standings at the moment, but I think is UConn in 6? UConn would be in 6. So if they would win their first round game, you would get UConn at the Garden as a 3 right now. I want no
Yeah.
part of that. I want no part of that, in my opinion. As a 2 seed, you would get the either Nova or Butler. I don't know even if I want any part of Nova anyway. So maybe I don't want any of that. Maybe I don't want Nova or UConn. And you're not gonna, obviously you're going to get one of them potentially. So look, you just look at the Big East, how complicated it is and how hard it is. Because you could be a 2 seed and you can get Nova in the quarterfinals in the Big East tournament. And I know that's projecting, but that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough outs across the board here. I mean, if you look at the timelines, the Justin Moore returning from injury, by the time March comes around, the Big East is going to look completely different than it does right now,
Yeah.
as it does every year. Rounding out here, Peter, on the Friar side of things, keys to success for tomorrow, and then your predictions.
Keys to success, I would say perimeter play. I think it's still going to have to come down to the Friars guards versus Xavier's guards. So you kind of exclude Fremantle, obviously. You have Boom, you have Jones, you have Kunkel, and you have Bynum, Devin Carter, Noah Locke, and Alan Breed, and Corey Floyd, who's come on the scene, which is awesome for the Friars. I think you're going to need a Noah, not you're going to need, but you're going to need what Noah Locke are we getting tomorrow? Because it's very hot and cold.
That's a great point.
It's very hot and cold because he doesn't defend. He's not a great defender. So you kind of lose that aspect. When he's on, I think this team can beat basically anybody in the Big East, and they're hard out against anybody in this country because Noah Locke is that good of a shooter. But when he's off, it becomes kind of a stalemate on offense. So I think it's going to be the guards versus Xavier's guards. Whatever guards are better, I think win the game. I think, look, Crosswell and Clifton Moore have been very good, but I know Crosswell played a very good game last game, but I think Crosswell's kind of been on the not downslope, but he hasn't had that consistent play. And Clifton Moore's been pretty good off the bench. Hopkins is going to get his buckets, and I don't want to see another 4 for 12 shooting for Devin Carter because if that happens, I don't know if Jared Bynum is dropping another 7 for 8 shooting. I wouldn't expect it. So if Devin Carter shoots again, 4 for 12 or in that range, it's a tough win. It's gonna be a tough win for the Friars if that happens.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. I think, guard play, backcourt play is definitely going to be the key to success tomorrow for the Friars. I think things in the front court open up a little bit without Zach Fremantle. I think you can invest a little bit more defensively in Jack Nungy. You can go with the double big Croswell, Clifton Moore lineup and try and smother him down low. I think the defensive play of our guards, specifically Devin Carter and Alan Breed, is going to be the difference maker. I also think late game and late shot clock play is going to be huge. It was the past 2 games last year at Xavier. It was the final 3 possessions. Shot clock is turned off. Xavier has the ball in their hands with the opportunity to win. Obviously, we don't have to rehash, but we know what happened on the road at Xavier. We know what happened in the triple overtime game at home at the Dunk. This is a Xavier team that returns basically everybody from that roster. I'm sure they remember the way both of those games went in favor of the Friars. Jared Bynum, obviously a huge factor late in each of those games, hitting the buzzer beater at the Cintas Center and putting the Friars up 5 with a 3 at home. I think it's going to come down to the final couple of possessions. I think, I thought Xavier was probably going to run away with it. Maybe not run away with it, but I thought it was going to be a comfortable lead at home. I don't think so anymore. I think it's going to be much closer. But, the jury is still out for me on a prediction. If I had to pick, gun to my head, I'd pick Xavier.
Yeah, I picked Xavier to actually win 77-74, so I thought it'd be a closer game. You know what? I'm gonna ride my prediction. I think Xavier sneaks away with a 3-point win. I like what you said. Like, they're motivated. They come up those 2 tough losses uh, the previous season. Everyone basically is coming back. Obviously, like we mentioned probably a million times tonight, Fremantle won't be playing. So I still think this is gonna be a split. I still think we win at home and they win on the road. But this becomes a major, and it was anyway, but this becomes even more of an enticing and major opportunity for the Friars to steal one on the road against the second best team according to the Big East standings at the moment in the Big East. So I still think Xavier gets the win. I think it's going to be very close. I think it's going to be a 3-point game. I still think they sneak away with a win. But this is a huge opportunity for the Friars.
Yeah, absolutely. If I'm Ed Cooley, if I'm Bryce Hopkins, I'm salivating right now. But
Yeah.
yeah, Peter, any other thoughts? I'll give you a second to plug your socials, your
Yeah.
podcast. Go ahead.
Yeah, so obviously on the screen, you can follow me on Twitter at DBIC Peter. I will follow you back. And yeah, WDM Sports, I'm the main play-by-play, or I am the play-by-play guy for the whole year. We're rounding out the year. We got Georgetown, we got Creighton at home, off the top of my head, Xavier at home. Who else do we have at home? Do we play the Johnnies at home still? No, we already played the Giants. I'm trying to round the schedule off the top of my head. But yeah, rest of the home games, Big East, if you guys want to listen to a student broadcast, WDM Sports, awesome coverage. We kind of give you guys more of a radio, but a Friar broadcast. It's obviously we're unbiased.
It's Friar skewed. I used to work for WDOM. It's totally Friar skewed.
Yes, we try to be unbiased as we can when we call in the games, but we come out of TV, we'll talk about the Friars. So we'll do that. So it's more of a Friar broadcast. But any home game coming up, be awesome. If you want to say hi to me at the AMP, you guys can. I'm sitting right across from the PC bench on the left of the basketball hoop in front of the student section. So if you're afraid of the student section, don't be. Just walk by them. You can come say hi to me. But yeah, follow me on DBIC Peter and everything WDM Sports.
Peter, I actually that reminded me. I have another question for you.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a former student and the former co-founder of Friar Fanatics, I know how important the student section is to playing at the Amica Mutual Pavilion. This year, it seems like even for like the DePauls and the Butlers of the world, the students are showing out and they're really lifting the tall boys up. What has it been like as a student to be a part of that atmosphere? Obviously, you're on the media bench doing the radio stuff for WDOM, but you're still in the building. You still get to be a part of it. I've only been to a couple of games at the AMP this season. What has the atmosphere been like? Can you just talk to that for a little bit?
It's been very good. Look, obviously the student section is right behind me, and they've done a good job actually this year of blocking them off so they're not breathing down our necks during the game. But they're out there an hour and a half before the game. They make the buses they open the student section 30 minutes before they do the regular section or the regular attendance to the normal patrons. It's been awesome. And yeah, it's Friar Fanatics is still going strong. My friend's girlfriend, I think she's in charge of Friar Fanatics, so I talk to her sometimes. They're doing great things, and yeah, student section is awesome. It's a fun environment to be in. It's not too crazy. It might be a little too crazy, but it's fun. It's a fun, and I think most crowds, I agree. Like the DePaul game, that was a Saturday game. That game was packed when I walked, or I was in, and as students came in, that game was packed. Butler on a Wednesday at 8:30 on a rainy, stormy night, that place was packed, and it's gonna be packed for the Creighton game on Valentine's Day. Nova, that's the game I forgot. Nova at home on a weekend. Xavier. So yeah, the AMP is an awesome place to go to. One of the best places to go into the Big East, maybe the country. But yeah, it's a fun, and they're doing their thing, and they're making it really tough. They're making it really tough on some of these opponents. But yeah, no criticism. I know one person I think somebody against the Pulse says the student section wasn't great. Some of my friends said, but you know what? You gotta be picky, I guess. But no, student section is doing tremendous things, and hope they keep it up because it makes it a tough place to play.
Yep, absolutely. The Amica Mutual Pavilion where ranked teams come to die.
That name is still killing me when I'm on the broadcast and I'm
Oh,
like,
I hate it.
welcome inside the Mika Mutual Pavilion. And I'm like, boy, this is tough.
I am still not used to it. But anyway, closing out here, the Friars will travel to Cincinnati tomorrow to take on Xavier. As it stands right now, the Musketeers are favored by 2.5 points. I'd buy that.
Yeah, yeah. Would you buy Xavier or you buy the Friars?
I'm buying Xavier 2.5.
Yeah, I said Xavier wins by 3, so I guess I'm buying the 2.5.
That game is at 6:30 on FS1. Be sure to follow at the Flex Hoops for all things prior coverage. Hopefully, Matt St. Jean will be back for the next episode. That's Peter DiBiase. I'm Joe Howie. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And as always, go Friars.